So what do we do to address this imminent crisis of conflict? In the Middle Ages, they created walled cities to protect from roving bands. And at first, when our central government cannot protect daily life, some of us will pull together to form gated communities that can at least protect against the anarchy. But this isolation will work for us only a short period of time. Our lives are supported by many different technologies and machines. Behind walls, without free travel, these will begin to break down. Eventually, as manufacturers cannot get their product to market, production will stop, manufacturing art could be lost. Technological advancement ends because without a broad, easily accessible market, no one will invest in new technology. All of this happened before in England when the Roman Empire fell. This is not medieval Venice circa 1550 CE. This is the Roman baths in England, 70 AD, 1400 years earlier. Rome created this lifestyle for its citizens, predicated on having days free of anarchy, commerce free of piracy. Roman roads ensured a mobile military apparatus to keep the peace. Hadrian's Wall kept the unconquered barbarians at bay. Roman warships guarded sea routes so tin from Cardiff could reach the known world and the treasures of the world could reach Cardiff. But when Rome fell, all these protections were lost. The amenities of Roman civilization evaporated. The skill to deliver water to baths from distant springs was lost for 1,000 years. England returned to feuding. Invasions continued for centuries. The quality, like that of Roman life, did not return until after the plague in the 16th century. I don't think gated communities will work for us. Maybe we should find a behavior that will allow us to reverse expanding conflict. Maybe the one child per family solution that we derive from the island does not sound so irrational anymore. You let the kids keep improving their lives because you can't prevent them from doing so anyway. And you get all the parents to have one child per family. What does that look like on the 4-curve graph? Well, first, per capita footprint will continue to increase. Notice that the purple line is dashed to show it has not yet happened. Next, implement the one child per family behavior. Voila! The population curve will decrease by half every generation. Now, when you multiply any point on the rising per capita curve times any point on the falling population curve, you get the total human footprint curve. And as you can see, it drops away from the global carrying capacity curve. This means the constraint forces drop. This means the forces pushing one person into another are falling nonlinearly. This means conflict must be dropping and peace must be increasing. The one child per family behavior, rapidly decreasing population, appears to be a way for humans to have ever-rising well-being and ever-increasing peace. Let me summarize the whole talk using the constrained growth curve. In this curve, the red dots are total human footprint. Their rise is driven by both increases in human population and increases in per capita footprint. Using only our experience, we could believe that the total human footprint will continue to grow. However, those of us who add up the numbers know that the total human footprint cannot exceed the goods and services that can be produced by the Earth's resources, technology, and labor. We know that today the slope of the line is dependent on advancing technology and larger use of fossil fuels. However, it is clear that the carrying capacity is not rising as fast as the total human footprint. Because of limited supplies, both the value of gas and housing are rising relative to most individuals' productivity. Thus, we must conclude that two curves will intersect. As the two curves come together, forces will build up to slow the growth of total footprint. Where in the lily pond, the increased constrained forces increase the death rate. For humans, because most live far above subsistence, the increasing constrained forces have a different effect. They redistribute footprint. Some individuals lose footprint, others gain. These losses of footprint are manifested as losses of well-being. Individuals who have lost too much well-being and can't get the market to make it better turn to violent means of well-being reacquisition. It appears that in the human system, increasing constraint forces means increasing conflict. In the past, human conflicts driven by these forces were not global. While many people and sometimes whole civilizations perish, new ones replace them. This time, in our imminent crisis of expanding conflict, some things are different. We, the human species, inside the constraints of Earth, are beginning our last doubling. We are not only talking about last population doubling, which almost everyone has come to accept. We are talking about last footprint doubling, something that does not register on most people's attention. If footprint can't be doubled, then the priming the pump economic model, which raised so many to previously unheard of heights of well-being, will be replaced with a zero-sum game economic model. Instead of more ski areas, we will have more expensive ski areas. Instead of more gas, we will have more expensive gas. Instead of more food, we will have more expensive food. In a zero-sum game economic model, gains in one individual's footprint will be reflected in another's losses. Our problem is that in the past, when total human footprint was far from the carrying capacity, growing constrained forces did not prevent most people from improving their well-being. Today, when these forces are inhibiting our ability to raise our well-being, it is not registering on our consciousness. Our problem is that these constrained forces will also be growing at unimaginable rates to unimaginable sizes. And their effect will be seen as never before experienced losses of well-being to ever-growing segments of the global population. These changes will result in our experiencing ever-growing levels of conflict, not just in Rwanda, Somalia, Ethiopia, or Darfur, but in our neighborhoods engaging our children. The conflicts may precipitate a potential dark age, and worst case, a dark age from which we cannot emerge. There is a solution: rapid population decline, 6 billion people choosing one-child families. However, because most people cannot see the approaching problem, there is no reason for them to take it. They cannot predict this coming crisis of conflict because, just like the experienced braking forces did not let them predict the injurious stopping forces in auto crashes, their experience with past social conflicts and dark ages will not let them predict the magnitude of these well-being losses, the onslaught of social conflict, and its ability to disrupt and to destroy our civilization. Reviewing history to solve this coming crisis of conflict is a little like looking in the rearview mirror to navigate around a sharp bend in the road. The dynamic structure connecting humans to their environment, the nonlinear growth of constrained forces, which actually explained what happened to other collapsed civilizations, was never captured by historians. Just as the experience in crashing a car did not teach the injured what happened or to wear seatbelts. As a result, this generation is blindly approaching a critical point in the human agenda. Soon, for each of us, surviving immediate anarchy will consume most of the resources under our control. After we pass this point, changing ever-increasing conflict into ever-increasing peace won't be an individual's agenda. Each will be too busy just keeping the hungry away from their larders. Isaac Asimov had a way of describing human thinking in predicaments like this. He said, our view of the future is much like that of a man who jumped off the top of a 100-story building. As he falls past the 10th floor, someone yells out the window, "How are you doing?" And the man calls back, "Just fine. I've fallen 90 stories and nothing bad has happened yet." Both the falling man and humankind fail to see the coming problem. Both are not worrying about finding a solution. If a correct solution is offered, both view it as a useless gift. And at least in our case, if the solution requires behavior like giving up a second child, there is little motivation to take it. We are at the end of my story. I hope I have changed your view on 3 parts of the human predicament. 1. We can't just muddle through. We can't just let this civilization crash and hope a better one arises from the ashes. The fall of Rome took with it a lot of progress and a lot of tools to make progress. The destruction of Easter Island produced a barrenness that still exists. Our civilization's final conflict will consume to extinction most of the world's low-hanging fruit. Fossil fuels, water aquifers, fisheries, forests, the parts of the ecosystem that support our good life. 2. 1 child per family creates increasing peace. There is no fudging. 2 children per family is not just a small difference from 1. It is not just an imperfect solution. 2 children per family is like putting your arm out to protect a child in an accident. It makes the coming conflict a whole lot worse. One way out of this predicament is a future generation that thinks and behaves better than we do. One of our goals should be build that generation. That is, to build individuals that can choose behavior that responds to the nonlinear system within which we are immersed. Our goal should be build individuals, a whole generation of them, that can choose 1 child per family because to him or her it will seem logical and necessary. Just as we think it's logical and necessary in crossing the street not to step off the curb in front of a rushing bus. Finding ways to make individuals intellectually more powerful than you and me is difficult work. Those working on this system can use all the resources we can give them. Part of making this happen is having more people come to a new understanding of our human predicament. More people have to be brought to an understanding that there is a problem threatening humankind that is bigger than the immediate or future problems we have already seen and are already having trouble attending to. Depleting fisheries, global warming, energy transitions, current conflicts are teeny when compared to an unseen problem I call crisis of conflict. The crisis of conflict arrives and injures humankind like a car accident. More people have to believe that the crisis of conflict is addressed by rapid human population decline, 1 child per family, selected universally. More people have to understand that the reason normal individuals consider the 1 child per family behavior too high a price to pay to solve our predicament is that each has not experienced a global crisis of conflict. Even understanding this graphic is beyond their intellectual capacities. If you want to help solve our crisis of conflict predicament, you have to help build this group of understanders. Share what you have learned in this presentation. Explain the crisis of conflict to anyone who will listen. Tell your children and friends about the social conflict cost of the second child. If you need materials, go to the Skill website. Tell them solving the problems of global warming, oil exhaustion, and pollution will not reverse the rising social conflict problem, which by itself threatens to destroy both civilization and the ecosystem. Tell them that sharing the good life, conserving scarce resources, recycling, advancing technology, and improving institutional policy while sounding politically correct won't stop rising conflict. Tell them that everyone shares the same problem when a civilization collapses. If anything, the rich, that's us, lose the most. Tell them to prevent a crisis of conflict, everyone will be needed on board. Hard as it may sound, you have to make your listener understand that a whole future generation worth of one child per family decisions is needed to reverse increasing conflict. Now you have your assignments. I want to thank each of you for listening to this unsettling view of our future and this strange and difficult to implement solution. Thank you for listening politely when you heard me speak heresy about your favorite earth-saving behaviors. Let me leave you with a simple closing thought. One more piece of heresy, a piece you can put on a t-shirt and explain to your friends. Having one child per family? Irrational as wearing a seatbelt. Thank you, and good night.